Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm Zias Caraval from ZK Research, and I'm joined today by Dan O'Connell, the Chief Strategy Officer at Dialpad. Dan, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to eWeek, my media partner. All ZKasts are done in conjunction with the eWeek eSpeaks program. But before we get into our topic of artificial intelligence in the contact center, give us a brief rundown on yourself and Dialpad, what you guys do and what you do there.
Yeah, so I joined Dialpad. So I'm our Chief Strategy Officer, as you mentioned. I joined 4.5 years ago. Dialpad acquired the startup that I was building and CEO of called TalkIQ, which was a real-time speech rec and NLP startup, which is a fancy way of saying if anybody uses Siri and Alexa, we were leveraging similar technologies to go do things like real-time transcription, suggested answers to questions, map sentiment. And then for those of you that might not be familiar with Dialpad, we're an AI-powered communications platform. We do voice, video, messaging, and contact center on any device anywhere in the world. Our founders came out of Google and are heavily invested in how do we provide just a really unified, beautiful experience, as I said, across voice, video, messaging, and contact center.
Yeah, all those critical tools today in the cloud that make hybrid work.
It is.
Yeah. So I know you talk to a lot of customers as part of your job. And what are some of the trends that you're seeing that's driving contact center transformation today?
Yeah, so I think like a number of trends, and I think some of them have obviously been accelerated through the pandemic, and obviously pretty much all of us now working in a hybrid way. One is just a unified platform. I think that's one of the trends that we've seen, at least from our customers, has been, look, like people want to have a single piece of software. They want to be able to go and manage that in the cloud and provision new users in a really seamless way. And so we've spent a lot of energy and a lot of time of how do we go and unify voice, video, messaging, and contact, as I said, contact center into this one seamless application. And I think obviously the next one gets into like the contact center opportunity, which I think is obviously, I call it like a legacy space, but I think there's been these large legacy providers that have been around, and suddenly every business found themselves figuring out how to support and both support users or customers, but then also sell. And how do you actually do that suddenly when you can't show up in the office? And so I think there's been a heavy investment in contact center software, the shift to the cloud. And then I think like the last trend obviously gets into AI, which is you've got these technologies, which are not new technologies. Speech recognition has been around for decades, but suddenly has these really nice applications. And obviously we've got the benefits of like cloud computing and speed and internet access to suddenly be able to do things like real-time transcription and route calls based on what is being said or infer customer satisfaction. And that just opens up a host of new opportunities for businesses out there.
Yeah, from what I've seen, just this big shift to customer experience led organizations has driven a lot of innovation in contact center. My research shows that customer experience is now the top brand differentiator. One of the interesting data points from my research last year was 2/3 of millennials admitted to changing loyalties to a brand because of one bad experience, right? So there's no mulligans given here, right? When it comes to business. So now one of the big trends in both UCaaS and CCaaS, and I know the combined offering is what you call TrueCaaS, but has been the use of artificial intelligence. And what are some of the things customers are coming to you looking to do with AI?
Yeah, so I think there's like, to your point of like people want to have these really great experiences with brands, a lot of that now seems to start to try or at least starts with, look, people want to start online to get their answer. So it starts around self-service capabilities of, hey, how do I go and interact with a virtual agent? So something that people come to us is around virtual agents for, hey, I want to simply go and get a really quick answer and solve that myself without actually hopping on a phone and talking to an agent. So that's something that we've recently released and are thrilled about. Other things get into things like what we call AI CSAT, which is, we recently announced this just a couple of months ago, but it's really about, look, you and I have a conversation. If I'm an agent in a contact center, I shouldn't send you a survey at the end of the call or send you an email saying, hey, Zias, how did you feel about the interaction? Like what happened? We should be able to, we've got technologies that can go and infer that. So I can just do my job, pick up the phone, have a conversation, and we'll infer whether you're thrilled or incredibly frustrated with that. And so you get 100% coverage. And obviously kind of I talk about it in a way that it democratizes kind of the data that's there. But then obviously you get into the things like agent assist, so suggested answers to questions. But I think the unique piece for Dialpad is we've heavily invested in building our own AI. And what I mean by that is we build our models in-house, we do all of our own speech rec, we do all of our own NLP. And so that means that it's domain specific. So we think it drives a lot more accuracy and a lot more use because it's really thought about of, look, how do we go and build AI features that are specific for contact center use cases or specific to, as I said, like conferencing use cases that are out there?
Yeah, I think, AI has actually made some of the things that the promise of some of the things we've been rolling out in contact center work. I know early on when people rolled out bots and things, you want to talk about frustration. I mean, a bot without AI is nothing more than a text-based IVR.
Yep.
Right? And people hate IVRs and they hate text-based IVRs even more. And
so, rightfully so.
And the introduction of conversational AI actually makes that usable. So, I use the term TrueCaaS. Can you just define what that is from the Dialpad point of view, and then talk a little bit about the long history you've had in AI? I know AI is I don't want to say it's a new topic for this industry, but it's actually been around a long time. But you guys have actually been doing AI under the covers for a lot longer than most of the industry, correct?
Yeah. So TrueCaaS for us, as I said, you keep hearing me kind of do this tagline of, look, it's voice, video, messaging, contact center on any device, anywhere in the world. But it's really that. It's, look, you shouldn't have 3 different or 4 different pieces of software to manage your communication and collaboration needs. So it's, look, we're going to do all of that in one seamlessly integrated application. And then we spend a lot of time, you see our tagline also work beautifully, which is, look, I'm a big believer in and a lot of us here at Dialpad are huge believers that, look, you want software that looks and feels good. And what I mean by that is you can probably build the best application in the world, but if it doesn't look good, people are not going to have this great, wonderful experience with it. So we care a lot about bringing kind of a consumer design to enterprise software. And then when you talk about AI, as I said, I've been here at Dialpad for 4.5 years. Prior to that, I was building a startup that had to do with speech rec and NLP. And so, we view ourselves as really being innovators in this market. Talk IQ, we built really the first real-time speech recognition engine, which was, we want to go and do a live transcription for enterprise conversations, meaning these are not conversations like you have with Siri or Alexa or Google, which is, you say, hey, Siri, play the Beatles, or hey, Alexa, what time is it? These are 45-minute or longer conversations. We're talking about words that don't show up in the dictionary, product names, company names, and we could go and understand that with incredible accuracy. And that opened up all of these different opportunities about, look, if you can go and understand a conversation as it happens, what does that open the door for? And it opens the door for things like inferring customer satisfaction in real time. It opens the door for suggested answers to questions. It means that you can go and route calls. It means you can go and understand when there's a network issue. It means we could go flag spam that's happening. So all of these different opportunities open up for us because we do this ourselves and have been so heavily invested in it. And then, I know I go on these long rambles, but the last one I would highlight is, we do our own speech rec, we do our own NLP, and then last year, we acquired a business called Clear Knowledgeware that is really an innovator and a pioneer in semantic search. And so again, those are really the 3 areas of AI that we're heavily invested in: speech rec, NLP, and then semantic search.
Yeah, I want to drill down on the point too, if you do it in your own, because if you look across the UCaaS, CCaaS industry, there are a lot of pure play AI specialist companies, and there ones do conversational AI, ones that do search, and almost every one of your competitors partners with those companies in order to bring AI capabilities. And so, why are you doing your own? And what does that give you for competitive advantage, and how do you translate that into customer facing benefits?
Yeah, so great question. A question I got literally every day from investors and to this day still get pretty much on a daily basis. So there's a couple different advantages, right, that we view and are think are important in doing this yourselves. Number one is, like, I'm a big believer in being able to control your own destiny. And so I think at times, if you're leveraging third parties, if you're leveraging other APIs that are out there, you're just buying the Lego blocks. appliance. And so you're buying the Lego blocks, and that suddenly everyone else's application looks the same because perhaps your competitors are all using the same partner to go and power things. Yeah. So one is, I think it provides this innovation and differentiation that nobody else can replicate. And I think that's really incredibly important, especially in a market that, look, our competitors are some big names, people are aware of them. And so we have to find ways to actually stand out. And I think that gives us a key way to stand out. Number two gets into cost. So those are obviously things like our CFO and the finance folks will care about, is that, look, doing this ourselves at this scale now gives us an advantage in terms of cost. Now, obviously, the pricing for even things like speech recognition or transcription are different for the vendors that provide it, as opposed to the public pricing they charge a customer. Sure. But I would say, look, like there's significant cost advantages for us to be able to go and do this. And then the third, which actually might be the most important thing, gets into accuracy, which is, look, we don't want to use let's take sentiment, for example. When we're talking about sentiment specifically for contact centers, we need to go and build models. Those sentiment conversations or customer satisfaction conversations look different for a bank than they do in healthcare. And somebody in healthcare might be talking about pain and frustration because of the medical condition that they have, not because of the experience that they're having with an agent or a brand or a company. And so these are all of the things that allow us to drive differentiation. Is that accuracy stems from, we can go and build these models and train these data specifically to these domains and industries. And that, again, provides an advantage to the customer that uses us, because, look, it's not some generic model that's out there. It's purely tailored. So those are, ultimately the three things of, like, why do we do this ourselves is, look, speed, accuracy, costs, and then it provides us a way to actually go and differentiate. Fortunately, we made that bet, as I said, Dialpad made that bet 4.5 years ago. We've been working on it prior to that. So we view this as like, look, we've got a 5-year head start of all of our competitors, and we need to continue to heavily invest in R&D on this side to continue to drive innovation and differentiation.
Yeah, and one of the AI CSAT feature that you talked about before is one of my favorite ones that you rolled out, because even the best organizations would get maybe a 10% hit rate on the emails. Yeah. I mean, the 10%, I guess, nirvana, right?
Yeah, I would say probably high. They got 2 or 3%.
Yeah. But with your product, you can actually do that for every call now.
Yes. Yeah. And I think those are these are the things where it's like, look, and you don't have to, the best part of this stuff is you don't even have to change behaviors, right? You're already going to pick up the call every day and talk to people, right? If you're an agent in a contact center. And so the beauty of it is, like, look, you just do what you normally do, and we're going to go give you this data point that, one, you've never had that volume of data. And so suddenly you're not making decisions around customer satisfaction on what I call like the heroes and zeros, which is like, either you had a really great experience and want to celebrate Dan because he was helpful, or you're like, Dan was terrible and I want to tell the company how bad that experience was. And so it becomes this really polarizing data point.
Yeah. And there's another feature you just announced, you touched on it a little bit, but as part of your larger agent empowerment launch, you announced something called AI Agent Assist. Can you talk about what that is?
Yeah, so AI Agent Assist is the ability for, you can think of it as a virtual assistant for our agents that are sitting in a contact center. So at any point in time, they can go, again, I talked about kind of the power of semantic search and the investments in AI that we've made, but it's the ability for an agent to literally go and query unstructured data points to get an answer instantaneously for them. And when I say unstructured,
this is different than the agent that's got to put you on hold, spend 10 minutes looking through 10 different systems, right?
It is. So this is the beauty of all of this stuff, of these technologies, right? Is they all come together in real time. And we talk like no latency. So you're talking milliseconds of latency, but suddenly these are the things that we want to go and empower agents with, which is like, you should never have to put somebody on hold. And that's going to drive faster resolution times. We think it improves customer satisfaction for the customer that they're engaging with. And so these are the kind of the touch points and kind of the beauty of the platform is, it's like, hey, it's solving these issues the agents have faster, and that has a positive impact on the customer. And we think that's why, we obviously want more and more people to come and use and leverage Dialpad.
Yeah, this is, that's an interesting tool, because whenever I talk to agents about AI, a lot of them are worried it's going to take their jobs, and it's like, no. You're looking at this wrong. It's I use the analogy, it's like an autonomous vehicle. Like down the road, years from now, sure, we might have cars with no drivers in them. And one day, years down the road, we might have contact centers with no agents in them. But today, AI is being used to make people better drivers, parallel park assist, lane change alert. And AI is being used to make agents much better agents by removing a lot of that heavy lifting. And so now you don't have to worry about, customers screaming at you because they're unhappy. And think about it from the company standpoint, right? You're going to go out there and try and hire new talent, and the agent churn is always high. If you put those agents in a position to be successful, your ability to retain them is much higher than those legacy models, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you bring up a point, which is like, look, like it's not just about how do you provide a better customer experience. There's this agent experience, right? Where even today, you look like people can leave their jobs pretty quickly and move to another one because of just the demand in the labor market. But these are things that matter. It's like you want to go and empower the agents and make sure they have a really wonderful, good experience doing the work that they have to do every day, which is hard work. Working in a contact center is hard work. Trust me.
I wouldn't want to do that. Now, I know Dialpad has a group within it called AI Labs, and you use that to drive AI innovation, I guess, across the whole product line. But can you talk about that group and some of the things that it's come up with?
Yeah, so this stemmed out from a lot of us here, our founders, myself included, came from Google, and so Google has had this idea of labs. Gmail Labs is like a really pertinent example of it, and it's a way that you can kind of opt into things that people are just experimenting with, whether it's research projects to some features that may never actually make it to GA. And so we took those ethos and really brought it specifically to our AI and product and engineering teams, which is like, we want to go and talk about the innovative features that we're working on. We want to share insights around the team. We want to share insights around the cutting edge research that we're doing, whether it's around next generation models for speech recognition or things that we're working on the NLP and NLU side that have to do with churn prediction or revenue or kind of purchase intent. And so these are areas that, look, we want more customers to engage with us. We want to work with them and help them, provide them with a unique feature, but also get their feedback as early on in the process as possible. The other piece that it opens the door for is really around data sharing. So anytime you're talking about building models for NLP, NLU, you have to go to in order to drive an accurate model, you got to have a vast amount of data. So it also opens up this door that we can go and engage with a customer to say, hey, we're building this model specific to perhaps healthcare or the medical field. We'd love to partner with them to go and see if we can leverage some of the data and opt into it to build a specific feature for them to see if it opens up avenues and opportunities for other things. So it's really about just us continuing to drive innovation, sharing more about what we're working on. And again, another touch point to go and engage with customers that like to test out things, right? And as I said, some of that stuff will never actually get to GA, right? And that's the intention of it, is to kind of push the boundaries of things.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things about that is you're now taking advantage of the fact that communications in the cloud. You couldn't do that with a legacy on-prem system, right? And the reason Google can do that with Gmail is because they are cloud-based. And then if things stick, they stick, and if they don't, no harm, no foul.
Nice. Peel them back, or we put a lot of things, but what we call behind experiments, which is just for a small subset of users, gather this feedback. All of those touch points again are unique to kind of cloud software. It's funny, like growing up in the cloud, like I never think about things of on-prem. Like it's just a foreign kind of notion to me of like, well, why would you, I smile and laugh, and I'm like, well, why would you build software that way? There's obviously, like, I understand there's some moments where that makes sense. But I think for the vast majority of software, you're like, look, it's got to be cloud native. Like it opens up so many opportunities and seamless experiences.
Yeah. And so one last question. Given all the AI stuff you're working on, you mentioned a whole bunch of things, without getting into any kind of NDAs, can you share any kind of roadmap of what customers can expect in the near future?
Yeah, so we did have this nice announcement just the other day around agent empowerment, and something I'm really excited about, which I think is just a huge opportunity, gets into what we call AI QA scorecard. So obviously, every business I think that manages a contact center of any scale is doing playbooks and scorecards of their agents. And we think there's a massive opportunity to not automate that process, but help go and do some directional scoring to really go and save time for the managers and the supervisors that are grading calls, but also for the agents to get much faster feedback and drive accountability and performance. And so again, there's a massive opportunity. Well, we think it's a massive opportunity. There are standalone businesses that just do scorecarding, and we think that, look, that's a feature that should be that sits in our wheelhouse of AI superpowers that we think opens the door for again, just another opportunity for us. So I'm thrilled about that. We'll get into things like churn and revenue prediction. As I said, we recently announced AI CSAT, but we think we can do some inference on the churn and revenue side, which I think are going to be game changing and really useful for, look, every business in the world is figuring out how to sell more and churn less. So it's a great data point to go and solve.
Yeah, that actually addresses an issue that's come up when I talk to contact center managers. Is that, look, now that we're moving people home, we need better tools to manage, because the old way of managing was, well, you worked in the contact center space a long time. It's ridiculous. You literally walked around people and you listened for things.
Yes.
Right. And even if that was, you could do that, you can only hit a subset of calls. And like the AI subset, which can listen to every call, the scorecard can listen to every call, right? And so now you're getting a complete set of data. So
and you see it, I talk about, the rise of conversational intelligence, and look, like I think it's nice to have to poke fun at people, and look, it's all fun and games, but like but a lot of these businesses are tape recorders, right? Which is, hey, I can go have a recording, I can go do a transcript, and like, here's the tool for you to go data mine it and figure out what to listen to. And you're like, look, reviewing game tape is super useful. Nobody's going to say that, but it still takes time. And you can still, like, before you could never even do that. You had to do the sidecar and literally sit down next to the agent to do things. So I think like there's been like the first generation of like nice kind of better tape recorders, and we think in real time and again leveraging these really unique NLP and NLU models, we can go and kind of automate and just improve the overall process and experience for both managers and agents.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dan O'Connell from Dialpad. It's nice to hear that the AI is actually making contact center interesting. But before honestly, been in a period of 20, 30 years where there wasn't a whole lot of exciting things coming in this space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's nice to see some innovation coming into this. So again, on behalf of Dan, I'm Zias Caravella. Don't forget to click the subscribe, and I will see you next time on ZKast.